Oh, welcome back, students. We're now going to look at the topic of price elasticities. All right, so if you look at the first slide there, you see that gives you a definition of what price elasticity is. In sort of basics of understanding of price elasticities in microeconomics is that it studies the relationship between price and quantity. All right, it measures how sensitive quantity demanded is to a change in price. So you note that this is basically a study, or elasticity is talking about the relationship of quantity demanded to changes in price. You would note that in essence, it talks about how price is dependent on one type of product is and its nature. So it's basically the calculation of the demand and how demand is measured in terms of price. All right, the basic formula we have for price elasticity is that elasticity is calculated by the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. So we know that you put the percentage change in quantity demanded over a percentage change in quantity of changes in price, and then you get the sort of standard sort of result for price elasticity. All right, there are sort of five categories of price elasticity, and it really depends on the individual product. So, the five main types of price elasticity, as I've stated in the slides there, it's perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, unitary elastic, relatively elastic, and relatively inelastic. All right, most of these words are sort of grouped close together, and it's sort of same root word being used. That's why it's really sort of sometimes you can confuse these words easily. But as I explained them, please pay a bit of attention to it so that you can be able to demarcate what it means to be perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic, or relatively elastic and relatively inelastic. Okay, let's move on. Perfectly inelastic. So when we talk about perfectly inelastic, we know that an increase in price has no effect on quantity demanded. When calculated, the price elasticity is equal to zero. This is normally seen as products whose manufacturers are monopolies. So, for instance, PNG Power. PNG Power in Papua New Guinea, there's only one power company here. Major power company, I would say. There's some Derio Power, but it's just a little bit of fraction here and there. So, as a result, they pay product. If they increase the price for 1 unit or 20 kilo units or 30 kilo units or anything like that, you would see that still people will go and buy it because this is a monopolistic sort of product, and this is basically it's a perfectly inelastic sort of good. For instance, before there was only one network operator, Be Mobile. Oh, I tell you, the prices for phones and SIM cards, man, was always in the hundreds of kina, and your recharges would start from 50 kina upwards to 100 kina. So those people that were not working and couldn't afford to earn a lot of money, they basically couldn't afford a phone. And phones were perfectly realistic before Digicel and Vodafone and other sort of telecommunication company came into the market. So for a good to be perfectly inelastic, it's basically application price has no sort of effect on the quantity demanded, and a classical example is a service or goods such as PNG Power. Right, unitary elastic. And you look at the graph there as well, it tells you, gives you the example there. So when price is from P1 and comes down to P2, or P2 goes up to P1, you see that the quantity demanded just remains the same. Right, unitary elastic, you note that changes in price is equal to the changes in quantity demanded. When calculated, the price elasticity will be equal to 1. Demand moves with price. So when you talk about a good that demand moves with price, you know that changes in price is equal to the changes in quantity demanded. So if the price moves from P to P1, the demand quantity demanded will move from Q1 to Q2. So that means it's a good that demand moves with price. That's unitary elastic. Okay, relatively elastic. Relatively elastic means that a small change in price will result in a large change in quantity demanded. When you calculate the price elasticity, it will always be greater than 1. The quantity demanded is reactive to the price changes. It is likely a good there's many substitutes. So for instance, you'll see goods such as good there's a lot of substitutes in PNG. So a good such as, let's say, a soft drink. So the price of Coke, you'll see that if the price of Coke, if the price of Coke basically calms down, you will see that it will produce a huge change in quantity demanded. So if the price drops from P1 or if it goes up from P1 to P2, you would know that the quantity demanded, if the price goes from P to P1, you will know that the quantity demanded will move all the way from Q to Q1. So for instance, like Coca-Cola, if the price goes down, a large change in quantity demanded. So people will say, oh, you know, forget Fanta, forget 7 Up, forget Mountain Dew, forget all these drinks, because the price of Coca-Cola goes down, we all will start buying Coca-Cola. So that's what I mean by the relatively elastic sort of good. All right, perfectly elastic. Changes in price does not affect the quantity demanded. As such, when calculated, the PD will be equal to infinity. This is more a theoretical concept as no firm can ever be perfectly elastic. So perfectly elastic there, that's a utopian sort of abstract concept. No firm in the market can actually be perfectly elastic. All right. And the last one you see is, yes, so relatively elastic. That's when, and then you have perfectly elastic. So that's the last category there. So in the next slide, I've sort of given you a summary of the 5 sort of elasticity categories that we looked at. We said perfectly inelastic is 0, relatively elastic is always greater than 1, unitary elastic is 1, relatively elastic is more than 1, and perfectly elastic basically has no sort of monetary value attached to it. Alright, in the second set of lecture notes, we will look at what are the determinants of price elasticities. Thank you very much.